This podcast is brought to you with the help of our sponsor, AWeber, the world's leading email marketing and automation provider. Since 1998, AWeber has helped more than 1 million entrepreneurs grow their businesses. Their suite of marketing, automation, and sales tools make it easy to connect with prospects and customers. If you're a team of one, AWeber is still the best option when it comes to marketing your business. The Accidental Entrepreneur is also brought to you through our affiliate relationships with the following sponsors. One of One Productions, the New Jersey-based podcast studio that produces and edits both audio and video podcasts. They sell equipment for the average podcaster and have even created a guesting kit exclusively for our listeners. North Authentic, the conscious hair care marketplace offering the cleanest brands from around the world. The Healthy Place, the e-commerce site with thousands of supplements to help you live a healthier life, along with natural solutions for chronic pain, stress, anxiety, depression, sleeplessness, and much, much more. And be sure to support the podcast by ordering some logo merchandise from our online store. Listen to all of our sponsors' commercials later in this episode and follow their links in the show notes to learn more about their products and services.
In the software world, you call using your own product, it's typically called dog fooding.
Okay.
I'm not even sure what the historical.
Never heard
I just
of that.
know that it's eating your own dog food. Like, hey, I made this. I'm gonna use this product at the same time. So
Makes sense.
It was really helpful for developing and making the product better. Like if I had a need for something in the product. Right? Yeah, like if I wanted to do something that I couldn't do, it's like, well, let's just implement that. And
right.
We get the benefit from it. And oh, hey, by the way, thousands of other people also get the benefit from that.
Right.
Early on, we had a lot of kind of advocates and affiliates and resellers that were really instrumental in kind of spreading the word because it was such a new concept. It often it was something that other people would talk about a lot. Like, hey, what do you mean you're not following up with people? What do you mean you're not building a subscriber list of people that visit your website that are interested in what you're doing?
Makes absolutely no sense, right?
You should do this.
Right.
Here's how. This is a tool I use. It's wonderful. Here's a link. Go sign up.
The information provided in these episodes is for entertainment purposes only. It is not a guarantee of success or to be construed as advice of any kind. You should always seek advice from local licensed professionals before making any decisions.
The dictionary defines an entrepreneur as a person who organizes and manages any enterprise, especially a business, usually with considerable initiative and risk. People often start a business without much choice, perhaps due to a job loss or just being dissatisfied at work, and they come up with an idea they just know can be successful. They become entrepreneurs by accident. That is to say, their success or failure happens by accident, not with intention. My name is Mitch Beinhacker. I'm a corporate attorney and a business advisor. You're listening to The Accidental Entrepreneur, my podcast about how to achieve success on purpose, not by accident. Join me along with our monthly guests where we share our knowledge and help you get a hold of your business. And now on to today's episode.
Hey, I'm Tom Kulzer. I'm the CEO and founder of AWeber. I started AWeber in 1998, 24 years ago. We have about 75 current team members, and we've helped hundreds of thousands of small businesses around the world automate their marketing and email.
All right. Welcome to another episode of the podcast. I'm excited to get a special guest today. Tom will tell me how we hooked up because I never remember, but excited to have him on the show. If you are listening on your favorite directory and you can leave a review, please leave us a 5-star review. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit that like button, subscribe to our feed so we can keep bringing you valuable conversations like the one we're going to have today. So, Tom, I want to welcome you to the show. You and I were speaking. I'm a big marketing email automated guy, and I wasn't even familiar with AWeber. But since then, I've left MailChimp. What do they call? I'm not a disciple. I abandoned. I'm an abandoner. Abandoned MailChimp. But we could talk about it. But I'd like to get into your background first. Where you grew up, how you got into business, what you've done in business, then kind of what led you up to AWeber. Because you're a young guy and you've been doing this 24 years. So a good part of your story is AWeber. We'll talk about what it is. If anybody's listening, you got to check out AWeber online. Great alternative, better than MailChimp. I've moved a whole platform over to that. Really awesome stuff. Tom, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Mitch. It's fun to be here.
All right. Now, I won't hold it against you that you're in Philly and you're an Eagles fan, probably. So I'm a Giants fan. But we said we're not crazy on sports. So
Maybe we can go. I don't know if did you grow up there? You grew up somewhere else or?
No, I kind of grew up all over the East Coast. My dad was corporate America and always looking for the next best gig.
Right.
So born in Rochester, New York. I've lived as far north as Boston. I've lived as far south as Virginia Beach. I've lived in a bunch of places in between, Ellicott City, Maryland, down near you.
Got it. So you're like an East Coast, Northeast guy.
Yeah, kind of Northeast, East Coast guy.
Right.
I probably spent most of my childhood in the Hershey, PA area.
Oh,
so Pennsylvania feels homey to me.
Right. Okay. It's a good location.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, and then, what's your background in business? Did you learn that kind of through your dad, or he was more of a corporate guy?
Yeah, he was always kind of a corporate guy. When I was my dad's dad owned a printing company for many years. Think like letterpress.
Your grandfather.
So my grandfather on my dad's side owned a printing shop for many years. My grandfather on my mom's side owned a small excavation company. So I kind of grew up going to grandpa's house in the summer and going and playing on the backhoes and dump trucks and bulldozers. And
whichever
that was amazing
little kid wants to do.
Yeah, for a little kid. Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah.
So I saw running businesses when I was, I want to say 8-9 years old. My mom and dad bought a garment factory together. So think sewing clothes and producing clothes in Central PA. And they owned and ran that for quite a few years until the industry kind of changed. And
so a manufacturing facility where seamstresses and they'd sewing machines and the whole thing.
Exactly. And when I wasn't at my grandpa's house in the summer, I was at mom's, place at the factory and run around
a boy's dream.
Yeah, all the ladies there like to take care of me. So
of course,
they're always looking after me. So I kind of grew up around entrepreneurism and businesses and just working hard, and realizing the value of that. When I was in college, I went to Penn State York for a year for my freshman year of college, and I was studying mechanical engineering.
Okay.
One thing led to another. I ended up changing majors and switching to finance and going back to community college down in Maryland with the intention of finishing my degree at University of Maryland. I was never a great student. I was always tinkering and doing things on the side. I was bussing tables in an Olive Garden at the time, going through college. And I had picked up, I was just really interested in the internet. And it was kind of
and what year was this, then. Tom?
So this was 96, 97.
Yeah, and the internet, I remember just hearing about it 92, 91, 92, and it hit our shores. It was in Europe or whatever. Yeah, okay, so it's very early days.
It was still pretty new. I had internet when I was in high school, and that was cool to surf around and go on all the news boards and Usenet and dial up and all that jazz.
Of course.
Yep,
yeah,
exactly. And I had discovered this product for connecting to the internet wirelessly. It was a product that was being sold from a company in Ohio. Okay. And I basically, I joined that company to be a distributor of this product. And I'd go to computer shows and other things to distribute this wireless internet thing that I
it was
thought
through the cell phone network,
it was a cell phone network.
Must have been the slowest device you've ever seen in your life.
It was
in 96.
It was 19.2 kilobits per second. But by comparison,
we thought that was fast
at 56K at the time. So it's all relative. Today it'd be archaic, but
well, the internet wasn't like it is now. It the stuff we have now on the internet, that kind of stuff couldn't even handle.
Nope.
The bandwidth and the things
you'd wait
streaming.
Hours to download the average web page back then.
Yeah, I remember that one photograph would go one line at a time. You'd watch your computer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I had signed up to sell this product, and I was going to computer shows and getting leads and so forth. And being a college student, you got to follow up with people or you're not going to make the sale. One time talking to someone does not equal a sale. So I'd send emails and communicate with them. And I was doing that all manually. And eventually I got to the point where I was like, I send pretty much the same email to most people when I follow up with them over the course of several weeks after I first meet them. Why don't I write a little program that just sends them for me so I don't have to do it manually?
So now you were a finance major, so you kind of taught yourself programming?
Yeah, it was all self-taught. For whatever reason, it never occurred to me to go for a computer science degree. It never occurred to me.
You're wait, why am I majoring in finance? I could go for a computer science degree.
Yeah, it was just, it is what it is.
Probably would have been easier for you too.
Hindsight being 2020. Well, Although in retrospect, I might have actually finished college.
Yeah, right.
If I had done that. So
yeah, because it would have been part of what you were doing.
Exactly. We would have been a very different place then. So I automated this and I wrote this little program and I ended up sharing it with a bunch of other distributors that were selling the same wireless product. And I was running their follow-up for them as well. Like I had
what did it do, like template emails and stuff? So you have to keep reproducing things.
Exactly.
And Tom, what was it written in those days?
It was all Perl. It was all Perl code. Yep.
Never even heard of Perl. Okay.
Yeah, that's big. But
I'm sure it is.
It was all Perl code back then. And I ended up, one thing led to another. Continued to not do well in school. And I figured I need to focus on school. So I need to stop this modem thing, even though it was going pretty well and it was fun to do and whatnot. So I left that and I stopped running this program that went along with it. Okay. And all of a sudden I had all these people start coming to me and say, hey,
they're freaking out.
That thing that you were giving me for free that I was getting a lot of value out of, like, I really want that back. And hey, I'd also like to use it for these other companies that I'm working with as well. Like, can you sell it to me? And I was like, well, it wasn't really packaged in a way that I could sell it easily. And after I had about a half dozen coming to me saying, hey, I'll pay you for that. I'll pay you a monthly fee for that. I was like,
Maybe there's something here. You're the finance guy now, right? You should know.
And exactly. And thus was born the automated web assistant that got shortened to AWeber, and the rest is kind of history.
Yeah, because you and I were talking offline. AWeber is not a person, like the founder of the company.
It's not
automated web services, basically.
Yep, exactly. So it kind of got shortened from there, and it was catchy. It was an available domain.
So that's really where it started, with that little program?
Absolutely. That's exactly where it started.
So Tom, that must predate MailChimp and Constant Contact by a lot.
It predates Google and a lot of other things that people think about as always having been around. So Constant Contact was around as roving software, but they weren't doing email marketing yet. It predates lots of things. So we've been around for quite some time.
So did you finish? So did you say, well, I'm just going to drop out of school and keep doing this, or?
I positioned it to my parents as, hey, I'm going to take a 6 month, I'm going to take a semester off
hiatus
and see how this goes. Yeah. And 24 years later, you're
still waiting to go back.
So I've been to many educational things. I've done a lot of college that's not degree college.
Right. A lot of learning.
Yeah, I've done a lot of learning. Well, no, I've taken a bunch of college courses, like, professional executive coaching kind of stuff is very different than going and sitting in a classroom and you can learn in a week what would take a semester to do in a traditional sense. It's just it's access and paying for that condensed knowledge in a shorter period of time.
Right.
And I've done much learning on a very expensive, make mistakes, screw it up, and
costly.
iterate to do it better later.
So tell me about the business journey, because you're basically a kid in college. You got this little program that you didn't even think you could sell. People want to buy. You have no infrastructure. Did you basically build the whole platform yourself to start? Did you go get a development team, find a guy to partner with that? What was the?
Yeah. So out of the gate, I started everything. I ran all of AWeber myself until we had about 2,500 customers.
Okay.
You made the little shock face. It was literally
it doesn't sound like a lot, right?
I lived and breathed AWeber at the time. I did customer service during the day. I did marketing, accounting, programming, etc. in the evenings.
Yeah.
And occasionally I would sneak in some sleeping, and I was also racing competitive cycling at the time. So I'd do a bunch of that at amateur level. But if I wasn't riding or sleeping,
but you're young at that
working
point,
on
right?
AWeber.
Yeah, that's what a tech company does. You don't sleep for a month and a half.
Exactly. I was young and single, and I built kind of the initial version of AWeber, and it has iterated much since then.
Yeah. Well, what did it look like at that point? Like what it must have been much more simplistic.
Yeah, it was very simple. And even back then, email was plain text. It was a subject line, and then it was text, not even bold
HTML
or colors.
Exist, right?
HTML email was not a thing. So what it did at the time was very basic. You came in, you could set up a series of messages. You could put an interval in between them. So I want this message to go out, immediately when someone signs up. I want the
Right.
next message to go out 2 days later, and the message after that to go out 3 days later, and the message after that to go out a week later.
Right.
And that was that.
Yeah. Your normal drip campaign, basically.
Exactly. It was a very basic marketing automation sequence before marketing automation was a term or a thing that anybody even knew or talked about.
So there weren't photographs, there weren't pictures, there weren't.
Nope.
Were there links? Could you even do links in those days?
Yeah, you could definitely do links. Yeah,
Okay.
you could put a website link in there, and you could attach photos, but they come through like an attachment would today. Like if you were attaching a PDF or something like that, it's that little file icon at the bottom.
You have to click on it.
You got to click on it to open it. But you could do an image or a PDF or whatever you wanted. It just looked different. So
Now, were you able to gather any analytics at that point?
you could do click tracking. So I could track whether or not somebody clicked on a message. But because there was no HTML and there was no image rendering, meaning the images didn't display inline, you couldn't track like opens.
Right.
And that's just, it was a limitation of what email clients supported at the time. And even today, like there's still a limitation on what you can and can't track. That's just, it's not an AWeber limitation. It's just based on what you can and can't do in email. Email only supports a certain subset of things. It's not a full-blown web page in the context that most people would think about when they think, I can put this on a website. Well, why can't I put it in email? Well, there's a variety of different reasons on why you can and can't do different things for security perspectives, privacy, et cetera.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's evolved a lot.
So when did you start to feel that this was becoming like a viable business? Obviously, you're running it at your garage or your bedroom or whatever on a computer, right? At some point you gotta, start hiring people and doing stuff. So at what point did that happen?
It was a viable business after probably a year. Like it was definitely making
pretty quick.
Yeah, it was like full-time income kind of thing. Like it was just me. So it was, once I covered my expenses,
right?
Like
you didn't have a lot of overhead.
To me. It wasn't a whole lot of overhead. And so it was like, what does a mechanical engineer make, or what would a finance make? Like I think I'm already doing better than I would be like a number of years into that career. So it was kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, let's just take this a little further. Year two, I should have absolutely hired somebody. I didn't, mostly because I didn't know how, and it seemed like a scary thing to be not only responsible for somebody else's income, but just the overhead of like, well, how do you do payroll? Like that sounds scary. And like all the tools that
Especially
we think
then.
about. All the tools that we think about now, like even getting a merchant account to be able to collect credit cards online
was hard.
That was an ordeal back then. Like you couldn't just roll into Stripe or PayPal and poof, be able to accept payments. I actually launched the first version of AWeber in August of 98. We said we could accept credit cards, and I had the security stuff set up to be able to accept them securely. I had no merchant account to actually be able to process the credit cards on the back end. So I was just taking on blind faith that somebody was giving me valid details that when the credit card account, the merchant account that I had already applied for that hadn't been approved yet,
you'd put that in manually.
That I would put it in manually later and hope that everything
hopefully it went
out.
through.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't a web-based program in those days, right? It was software that they were buying.
No, it was all web-based. Yeah, it was all web-based. It's always been all web-based. Yeah, you logged into the website to manage it. And that way, like when somebody puts a form on their website to accept subscribers, that's coming into our platform. You can log in and manage your subscribers on the platform. You can log in and manage your emails and so forth.
Right.
And
then if the credit card gets denied, you could just cut them off. You could just
exactly. It wasn't a big deal in the end of the day. Like I forget what percent. It was like less. It was a single digit number of people out of a couple hundred that I had in the first like 2 months. So yeah, it was interesting, but it's how do you launch something and kind of get to the point where you have a viable product? How do you understand? Like there's certain things you need and certain things you don't. And it's like, at that point, I just needed to validate that this was an idea people were willing to pay for. And just the fact that you gave me something that looked like a credit card implied to me that like
you were interested
and you probably pay for this when I can actually validate whether your credit card's real or not.
Right. But did you write a business plan or a strategic plan that said, okay, these are my expenses. This I want, once I get X number of subscribers at X dollars, we can do this and grow. No, none of that.
No, not in the early days.
Why do that?
Not in the early days. As a company grew, yes, we definitely have, we go through a strategic planning session every year.
Yeah, of course.
We're constantly reevaluating. It's a whole different ballgame.
How many employees do you have now?
We're about 75, 80 at the moment.
Not all local, though.
So no, right? Well, with COVID, we all went remote. We used to all be in Philadelphia. We used to have a big office here that we were all in. And with COVID, we went fully remote. We decided shortly after kind of mid 2020 to stay remote. It had already been something that had given kind of like a lot of our team wanted that from the context of just where they could get positions from a recruiting basis. Like it was just something we were constantly going against, is being able to recruit good people and
because get them to our physical office, whatever, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we're now we have people in 15 different states around the U.S. and a handful of folks overseas as well.
But they're full timers. They work only.
So everybody's full time. So
look, if there's any business that lends itself to a virtual existence, it's definitely a company like yours. I mean, there's nothing that anybody needs to do besides drink a cup of coffee and laugh and play ping pong in another room that they can't do remotely.
For the most part, you'd be surprised when the rubber meets the road of like actually going remote. It's like, oh wait, how do we deal with that? How do we send T-shirts and swag to people? How do we deal with the bills? Like, no, there's ways to do it, but
of course
you gotta, things that used to be really simple that you used to just bang out of the front, the lobby of the office or from a side stock room. It's like, okay, now I have to have completely different processes to handle that sort of stuff. So
let's talk a little bit about business development, because I think, this is an entrepreneur show. And I think that's important because you were almost building a company and a service that was needed to market itself, right? Because, there was really no tools out there and you needed to grow the platform. The platform was going to promote it, right? How else would you do it? You would use your tools, right? So how did you go about, developing the business in the early days?
Yeah. So it's
trade shows. I don't know.
In the software world, you call using your own product. It's typically called dog fooding.
Okay.
I'm not even sure what the historical.
Never heard of that. I just
know that it's eating your own dog food. Like, hey, I made this. I'm gonna use this product at the same time. So
Makes sense.
It was really helpful for developing and making the product better. Like if I had a need for something in the product. Right? Yeah, like if I wanted to do something that I couldn't do, it's like, well, let's just implement that. And we get the benefit from it. And oh, hey, by the way, thousands of other people also get the benefit from that.
Right.
Early on, we had a lot of kind of advocates and affiliates and resellers that were really instrumental in kind of spreading the word because it was such a new concept. It often it was something that other people would talk about a lot. Like, hey, what do you mean you're not following up with people? What do you mean you're not building a subscriber list of people that visit your website that are interested in what you're doing?
Makes absolutely no sense, right?
You should do this. Right. Here's how. This is a tool I use. It's wonderful. Here's a link. Go sign up.
Right. Well, who are resellers? Like, what's a reseller? Like,
so
Best Buy. Somebody goes into Best Buy and buys AWeber.
Yeah. Well, no, not typically. So, most of them are actually a lot of our best advocates and resellers are business consultants, marketing agencies.
Got it.
Folks that are teaching other businesses how to operate their business efficiently and effectively.
Sure.
So those tend to be the best, because they have hands-on. They've used the product as well themselves. They've also helped many other people use the product. And they're able to give you a lot of the insights specific to your industry on what you should and shouldn't be doing as a course of best practices.
Well, do you have a certification program where you got people that are AWeber certified and they?
Yep, we call it our ACE program. It's we actually have certified experts, AWeber certified expert ACE.
There you go. I like
that. And I didn't come up with that one.
You're into acronyms. I like that.
Yeah. So we have a network of folks that are certified to implement AWeber. And a lot of that is it's not even necessarily, there's definitely a component of it that's using AWeber, but there's also a component of it is email marketing best practices, because a lot of people say that they know how to do email marketing.
Yeah, no.
And then you kind of get into the like just bare basics, and it's like, well, no, you're kind of messing that up. Or, hey, you could be doing a lot better if you just tweaked a couple of different things. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But at the beginning, you didn't have all this stuff. So I always imagine like a web-based service or something. They like go live and like look at the computer and be like, is anybody out there? Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you start? Yeah. How did you launch?
Here's a word from our sponsors. Looking to promote and grow your business? Or perhaps you're just getting started and want to hit the ground running. Email marketing is a great place to start. You can earn $32 for every dollar spent. And AWeber is the best choice for email marketing and automation. From maintaining a subscriber list to building drip campaigns and landing pages, AWeber gives you the tools and integrations you need to make marketing effective and fun. As our partner and sponsor, we use all their tools to promote this podcast and market our law firm. If you think of yourself as a team of one, AWeber is still your best choice for an online marketing tool. Looking to get into podcasting? Maybe to market your business, for your own enjoyment, or because you have a message you want to get out there. One of One Productions is a New Jersey-based studio just over the George Washington Bridge that caters to the booming business of podcasting. They offer a comfortable atmosphere using the latest technology available to record your podcast. And they are a full-service media company offering both audio and video production services, creating both audio and video podcasts as well as video shorts for business and personal use. Professional audio equipment packages are available through their website for all budgets, and be sure to check out their podcast guesting kit, created specially for our listeners. Do you battle chronic pain, stress, anxiety, or depression? Well, if you take any supplements or you're interested in natural alternatives, you need to know about FindYourHealthyPlace.com. Find Your Healthy Place has thousands of supplements to help you live a better quality of life, as well as natural solutions for chronic pain, stress, anxiety, depression, sleeplessness, and much, much more. Need guidance? Use their live chat feature and talk to a wellness consultant right on their website. And be sure to use our coupon code TAEPodcast for all your purchases to get the best prices at FindYourHealthyPlace.com. Follow their links in the show notes to learn more about all of our sponsors. And now back to our show.
When I very first launched, I launched it to the group of folks that were selling the wireless modems. I told them about it. So
you had that group. So you had a little bit of a database.
And I was actually running a moderated email discussion list. So basically, I would publish a newsletter every week that was was on entrepreneurial topics, on building your business and so forth. It was very much one of those like, hey, I'm studying marketing and how to build a business before I even owned a business. And I had it was about 3,000 subscribers on this. And I would send it out. I'd have a bunch of questions at the top, and people would reply back with answers to their questions or, responses to other messages that other people had put in.
This was like an RSS feed, that type
No, it was literally an email newsletter that I would send out.
Oh, and people would subscribe just like
and people would subscribe. Okay. And it was basically, I curated, who asked the best questions and what questions were going to go into the next newsletter. And I would then curate the responses to the questions that people asked and the topics that we were talking about.
Right.
So I was kind of the author or editor of this little newsletter, and all the subscribers were the ones that were actually, kind of coming up with and curating most of the content. So this is back before, you really had like forums and Stack Overflow and all the different places that you go to have conversations in groups. So it's kind of taking Usenet back in the day and kind of bringing it over to the more modern email world, and bringing kind of like-minded people together. So I announced it to that 3,000 people.
How did you build that list?
Where'd they come from? That was just, I had started a little website that I had promoted it on, and it was just me going to other places where marketers hung out. When I went to conferences and those sort of things, it was just a word of mouth thing. Yeah, it was totally a word of mouth. It's the same way.
But you're doing what everybody tells you to do: build an email list.
Exactly. So, and that was really the thing that helped kind of get AWeber off the ground initially was this built-in audience that already knew who I was and, trusted me to some extent with what I was doing and what I was saying. Even though I was a college student, I didn't necessarily know any more than anyone else did.
Doesn't matter. They were reading your stuff.
But yeah, I was looked at as, a bit of an expert around those things, even though I was learning and continuing there. It was just one of those things that I was really passionate and interested in. And I think that exuded to others, and they wanted to gravitate towards the solutions that I had. And at the end of the day, like AWeber solved a real need for people.
Of course.
And that kind of that really, more than anything, is the thing that gets you traction and gets people to talk about you. Is when I solve your problems, people aren't necessarily, they're not going to talk about your company. They're going to talk about how we always describe it as like, I want our customers to talk about how awesome they are and how awesome the thing is that they did. And then the byproduct of that is people are going to go, hey, how did you do that? Oh, hey, I use this tool called AWeber to make my awesome newsletter and, save a bunch of time and automate a bunch of follow-up, et cetera. They're going to, that product recommendation comes as a byproduct of you making that customer awesome and what they're doing and solving that problem and creating a lot of value for them.
Yeah.
So if you do that continually, your audience is going to expand.
Right. Well, that's what they tell everybody. You want to build a podcast, you got to build an email list. You want to have a following for your business, you got to build an email list. And so many people still don't do it.
Yeah. And
they have an account with you, because I know you can start free, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
Or they have an account with, I think MailChimp's free too for a period of time. And they don't do anything with it. They got like 3 leads in there and they're not like working the system.
So biggest thing I always talk about from an email perspective and growing that is, a lot of businesses get hung up in this like social networking, like whether it's building your audience on Twitter or Facebook or YouTube or otherwise. If Twitter decides they don't want you on their platform anymore, you're gone instantaneously.
You don't have
what
control
happens,
of it.
What happens to all those other followers that were following you? They're gone as well. You can't communicate with them anymore.
Right.
Whereas email, I can export, like, as an AWeber customer, you can export your subscribers, just like you said at the beginning here. You exported your subscribers from MailChimp. You decided you wanted to communicate with them via AWeber to get the benefits that we have. And you can do that. You can transfer from it's a transferable asset there. So
you
obviously
your LinkedIn contacts, whatever.
Yeah, like you obviously don't own the people, but like you own the ability to contact the people, and as long as they continue to give you permission to do that. But like I can move them from one platform to the other, whereas on Twitter or Facebook, when I post something, only 10, 15%, if you're lucky, of the people that have followed you are actually going to see what you sent. Right. When you send an email, everybody's going to see that. Like it's going to show up in everybody's inbox. At the very, worst case scenario, it's 98, 99% of people are going to have it in their inbox.
Right.
So they have the opportunity to engage with what you sent. If we sent emails and we only delivered 10 or 15% of them, like people would be up in arms, about that. So not only are you building an asset that's transferable, you're building an asset that like actually reaches your audience wherever they happen to be. And it's still, email is the thing that people wake up in the morning and check. It's the thing that they check before they go to bed. It's the thing that they check during dinner.
Because their customers talk to them. They get bills through there. They get, their family, it's not going away. I think it's funny because, a lot of people will, go on to social media and do all those stuff, but they don't realize that it's Facebook, LinkedIn, all these companies, they decide how important they think you are and who's going to see your content just because they're following you. We've all gotten
hey, you want to boost this post? Oh, hey, you want to reach the people that you
now you reach 5 more people than you reached before and you get paid for it.
You pay a whole bunch to reach the audience that has already said they want to. And they do that because like they own the platform and they can. Right. So why wouldn't they monetize that?
Right. And I'm not saying you shouldn't post on social media. You have the ability to do that through your automations and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
But it's got to be supplementary to building an email list. Years and years ago, I read a book. It's one of my favorite books I talk about all the time. It's called The Referral of a Lifetime. It was written by it's a Ken Blanchard series book. He co-authored it. Right. And when I first read it years ago, there was no email. So you'd have to send out postcards, whatever. But it was a parable story about a woman who was, trying to find her way in business and she met these different people. But it was a story about the value of keeping in touch with the circles that you keep and the people that you know and the people that like you and trust you and get your information. And, now you come full circle where we have automated and electronic mail, that becomes even more valuable. I think they use the number of that most people really know, like, let's say 250 people on average, and if you take each of those people know another 250 people, that's like 62,000 some odd people, something like that. So even just at that level where you sit down, like you said, and you said, well, listen, I have these people from, the wireless business I was in. There are a couple hundred people. I don't know what the number was, but whatever. You start with who you know, you start with your community, and that grows exponentially. And now with email marketing, the ability to keep in touch without having to literally print and mail a postcard or send a letter to all these people on a regular basis, you keeping in touch with people is by far, you get people that say, oh, I didn't realize you did that. Well, that's my fault for not keeping in touch and communicating with them. And it just makes it harder to do business.
Yeah.
I'm sure you market to all of your customers. It's not like you just sell them a tool to market. You do the same thing.
Absolutely.
I get emails from you guys every day. Oh, tips and tricks. And so it's the one shortcoming. Well, there's two shortcomings, right? Business owners tend to not do the planning that they need to do to maybe see the bumps and bruises and the traps down the road. And I'm not saying they got to write a business plan out of Harvard with charts and graphs and it's got to be 170 pages. I'm talking about, basic strategic planning. This is what I need to do to get to here, and this is how I'm going to adjust and so forth. That's the first thing. But the second thing is they just still don't get it about building let's call it a keep in touch program, not just an email list, a keep in touch program. Maybe there's special clients that you want to recognize and you want to do special things for them. Like you said, tagging and, bifurcating, because that's when you get into the weeds, when your list doesn't become just a list, right? It starts becoming more detailed. But it's I've interviewed 250 people and it's the number, and I do a lot of customers. Number one shortcoming is failure to do that. And like you said, if you do any research online, like how do you grow this? How do you grow? The first thing everybody says is you got to build an email list. I don't care if it's YouTube, podcasting,
Absolutely.
Marketing for your business, right?
They're all feeders into that as well. Like all of those social platforms are feeders into building that email list.
Yeah.
And they're great. And they're also great ways of, kind of boosting the algorithm. So like we have a thing called auto newsletter that will, so you can take like your podcast feed, like your RSS feed from your podcast or your YouTube channel and plug it in. And every time you publish a new video on YouTube, you can send out a newsletter that'll let people know that, hey, I posted this new thing. So rather than relying on the algorithm and YouTube to show up, and only, show up in 10% of the people that subscribed it, now anyone that's on your email list will affirmatively always get a notification about the fact that you publish a new video, and that's something that they're interested in. The byproduct of that is when you send that out to your best fans early, they're going to click on that. And what does that show to YouTube? It shows that people are interested in whatever it is that you're publishing there, and they see a whole bunch of organic direct traffic coming into YouTube. And you're more likely to get displays of your video to people outside of your subscriber network to kind of, it kind of gooses that virality of being able to have that wider network distribution of the videos that you're getting there. So it's, interesting ways of kind of goosing those algorithms to reach a wider audience that you wouldn't otherwise reach.
So is it an integration? So if I publish a video on my YouTube channel, is it an integration that sends data or something to my AWeber account and then sends out the email? Or do I have to?
It's the other way around. So we actually we'll pull YouTube periodically and look for new videos and automatically send them out as a result of polling there. So we will pull, I think it's every half an hour or 60 minutes, and look for new videos. And then if it is, you can set up criteria like, hey, I want to send the last 3 videos that I've published in my news feed. I want to send them only on Mondays between the hours of 9 and noon. If I had a new video, I'm going to send out an email with the new video and the last 2 or 3 videos that I've also published there. Or you could do it, hey, if I publish a video, as soon as you see it, send the email.
Right.
So there's a lot of configurability, but it's all done inside of AWeber. There's no actual connection to YouTube other than plugging in the website address for your YouTube channel. It's really it's pretty straightforward and pretty easy.
Got it. So it just it knows that you posted the video.
Yep, exactly.
And then activates whatever the automation.
We call it auto magic internally. We like to do a lot of things that's like it feels like magic when it just works.
Right.
And it just happens.
To you it's not magic. To us,
so exactly. No, there's a lot of complicated stuff that goes on behind the scenes to make it work, but we like to make it look like magic to users. So and we have templates set up to make it really easy to do.
Well, I think that's what's very good about your platform. Look, I've told people that you can't just sign up for AWeber, throw a bunch of names in there, and it's all going to work for you. You have to spend some time learning the platform and what it can do and then tailoring it to your business. But once you kind of get things in place, that's when your time really gets, freed up. For me to move from MailChimp to AWeber wasn't so bad. I had the templates ready. I mean, I had to retype them, copy and paste. I couldn't just download the templates from MailChimp, I don't think, right? And transfer them over to AWeber. I built new ones, but I had the content to refresh them and whatever. But it does take, I automate a lot of stuff for my practice, but it's taken time to learn this stuff and to do it and to figure it out. There are people, I guess you could go to one of your AWeber ACE people.
We also
can build it for you, right?
Yeah, we have our certified experts that can do it. If you're looking for a marketing agency or somebody to do with that. Yeah. We also do basic account migrations. So we have internal, we will do free account migrations from one platform to another. We do dozens of them every day as far as moving people from competing platforms.
They can just contact you and say, hey, I'm with constant contact. I want to move over, and you'll.
Yeah, if you punch in AWeber migrations into Google, it'll bring you up to a little form that you can fill out, and it'll ask you some questions, and then we'll get in touch to be able to execute on that. Everybody's setup is a little different, so we often will have a little back and forth to ask a few questions to clarify to make sure that we're doing the right thing, and we're moving your subscribers over, and they're going to continue to get the messages that they were before. And it's really cool because we have experts that are not only really familiar with AWeber, but all they do all day long is do customer migrations. So they're also really familiar with a lot of other platforms that are out there. Yeah. Exactly. Internally, they're often my resource for hey, how does that thing work over there? Can you,
they know it.
Yeah. They know exactly how it's worked because they use it all the time.
Right.
So
now I guess there's a little bit of customer stealing, right? So I guess you guys are being poached too. Somebody switches to MailChimp.
Yeah, it goes back and forth, certainly. You win some, you lose some, but we like to hopefully try to win more than we lose.
Right. Well, but it's not like the cellular business where there's not a lot of new entrants to the industry. They're just stealing each other's customers for the most part. That's not the case in your industry.
No, there's thousands of new businesses every day all around the world. So, and our customer base is global. So, so we work with customers all around the world.
Yeah, no, this is great. Because I told you that this was going to be less of a conversation about you as an entrepreneur, right? Because you've been doing this for 24 years. And we can talk about, the challenges you've had running your company, growing your company, things you do differently, things you've learned along the way. I'd like to talk about that stuff. But, also this is an episode about teaching, encouraging, right? Entrepreneurs to start to take the steps that make it easier and for them to develop business and make it more likely that they're going to succeed.
The thing that I often say, to our customers and to other entrepreneurs in general is just start. Because if you just sit around and you overthink it, you're never going to learn. And even if you do something and it's the wrong thing, what you've learned is that it's the wrong thing and to do something different next time. And very few. So we often, I talk about this, know the waterline analogy. So if you're a sailor, if you get a hole in the sail on your boat, right. I can keep sailing. I put some duct tape over and keep sailing, maybe fix it a little more effectively than that, but I can keep going. The ship's not going to sink. If I get a hole in the hull, a few waves might splash in. But I'm not going to sink if it's above the waterline. But if I get a hole below the waterline, it's all hands on deck, and and you gotta get in there and fix that quick. Most decisions in business are above the waterline decisions. They matter, but they're not
going to put you out of business.
They're not
Right.
decisions that are going to cost a whole lot of money, cost a whole lot of time, or put you out of business. Those sort of things. They're all things that you can apologize and move on from,
Right.
and learn from it at the end of the day. So make those decisions quickly. Don't toss and turn on those decisions forever and ever, because that analysis paralysis, like, you're never going to get anything done. You're not going to move forward with stuff. Some of my biggest learnings in business have been the big scary things that I've often thought were like tremendously terrifying to like do and move forward. Those are the things that lead to the most growth, because inherently what is comfortable is what is familiar. So like if I keep doing the same thing that I did yesterday and last week and last month and last year,
you're never going to learn. Right?
I'm never going to do anything differently, and I'm never going to get different results than I had in the past. If I want different results moving forward, I have to do something different than I have done in the past. And that is inherently scary.
But it's a little hard to expect different results if you keep doing the same thing. Right?
Exactly. So it just comes down to like, do something different than you've done before. It may not be the right thing. We split test and do it because we're all web-based. Like, I can split test and tell you whether or not, this headline or this image or this pricing plan or whatever on the website works better than a different one. Split test all kinds of things. Most of our tests are terrible, and they are actually worse than what we have on the site. But what we learned every time? We learned that doesn't work, and we try something different, and we do find things that work better. Yeah. And those improve over time. So like for every winning test, we probably have 5 or 6 tests that were just a flop. They may have been the same results as we got before. And that's also interesting as well. It's like, hey, we've tried 10 different images there. None of them changed anything. Maybe that image doesn't matter.
Right.
And that's an interesting learning.
Well, that's the thing. I think people think things matter too much, right? Their emails have to be perfect before they start sending them out. It doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, people are going to see it. If somebody responds to you and says, hey, did you know when I started with you, I guess the footer was doubling up. I don't know, whatever I did, but I don't care. So somebody actually responded to me, hey, did you know your footer is double? So I looked at it, I figured it out. But you know what? You know what it told me? He's reading my emails.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually a really kind of subtle copywriting thing, is like if you make a few typos, you always get the people that will reply and let you know that you spelled something wrong. And it's like, I've got an engaged audience, and it also comes across as human. Like, nobody wants this like polished brochure in their inbox. I want to know that they're communicating with other humans. And
unless you're like a large corporation, that people are like, what are they, stupid? They should know that.
Sure.
But, just small business owners.
Exactly. Like, you're going to goof up here and there, or, just even the language that you necessarily use in your messages. I think a lot of businesses, a lot of people that write messages, they write them as though they're writing to 10,000 people that are reading it all at the same time. And it's not how email works. It's not 10,000 people in a stadium. I'm not addressing all of you, my audience,
to all my of friends my subscribers. And colleagues.
It's like, no, I'm talking to Mitch, and I'm talking to Dave, and I'm talking to Sally. Like, I'm talking to individual people that are laying in their beds, sitting in their cars, hopefully in the passenger seat, sitting on the toilet, like wherever it is that they happen to be reading their emails. It's just one person. Address them and their needs. I think you're more likely to get genuine engagement and results as a byproduct of those communications.
Yeah, it's funny because when I transferred over to you, I have this. I told you I have like a 5 or 6 email drip campaign. Like, so somebody goes on my calendar, it adds it, whatever, and it introduces them to my firm, to the podcast services that I offer, things like that. So I put myself on that list because I wanted to make sure that it was working. Right, I'm getting the series of emails now. I started noticing, because I had redone my website, that all the links in all these emails were wrong because they were going to places that didn't exist anymore. Right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I never got any responses like that. People would always say, oh, no, I'm getting your emails. They're really interesting, whatever. And they're learning about the firm, and I get calls, whatever. The fact that the links all didn't work didn't seem to matter that much. I fixed them all now. Yeah. But nobody really, and now maybe it had an impact, but am I going to like worry I've lost all this business? I don't think so.
Yeah. And there's certainly probably a component of that, of like, they're already familiar with some aspects, and they're probably reading the emails and maybe not necessarily clicking on some of the links that are in there.
Exactly.
A lot of folks, when they send messages, it's kind of like, you'll get to the bottom and we go, what am I supposed to do with this? Was there an action that they wanted to take?
There's got to be an
that's
action.
not clear. Or or there's 50 links in a message. Like a lot of people way overlink what it is that they're sending. And it's like, it
turns people off. They just tune out.
Yeah, it just becomes like there's just too much. And it's like too much to process. And it's like, what's really important here? What is the message that they're trying to get through? Right.
Because they're bombarded with everything, just like we are.
Absolutely.
All day. So you started to talk about what's some things that you did as, in building the business that you would do differently or learned from or, found.
How many days do we have?
Okay, good. It's a good question then.
Things that I would do differently. Gosh.
Because you really are, you are, like everybody says this, but you're really an accidental entrepreneur. I mean, you built this program to do things for yourself. Then you start sharing it with people. And then they're like, whoa, wait, don't go anywhere, Tom. Can we buy that from you? And you're like, oh, and you kind of fell into, and then grew from there. And now 24 years later, you're still doing it.
Absolutely. There was no plan to be a business early on other than like, hey, let me see if I can make some money at this. Like that was,
you needed to pay bills.
That was the extent of like, hey, maybe I can make more money at this than doing the mechanical engineer or finance thing that I was planning on doing.
Right.
Yeah. In retrospect, hindsight, yeah, I can. Things to do over again. I would definitely hire somebody sooner.
Yeah.
That would have as much as at the time it felt scary. It was also one of those, like, I played this like weird game in my head of like, I don't have time to hire someone.
Right. I know people do that. It's better for me to just do it because if I got to hire, but they don't realize the long-term impact.
Exactly. In the long term, like you need to suck it up and figure out how to hire that person and spend the time to train them because you're never going to scale without being able to do that. And even the whole process of hiring and training someone, there are ways to do that are more efficient than other. I see so many businesses where it's like, oh, just go talk to Frank and he'll show you everything you need to know.
Right. That's their plan. And Frank's like, what? Frank's not even prepared for it.
Well, and every time Frank trains somebody, he trains them a little different because Frank's just going off the top of his head.
There's no, and then Frank's not in one day and the new person comes in, now they're screwed.
The institutional knowledge, I think, is really important. So we spend a lot of time, and it's actually one of the things that being remote has helped. It's helped with the, hey, just turn around and talk to the person that's next to you at the desk over. Like, yeah, you can still communicate. We use Slack and, we use a lot of video conference and that sort of thing, but like, it's not as easy. So we really encourage our team to document things and to write down processes and how stuff works so that one, it becomes this institutional knowledge that even if that person moves on to another company over years or moves into a different position, I have what was in their head.
You've captured their knowledge. Yeah.
And how they've done that position so that when somebody else comes in, they can look at it and go, hey, okay, this is what we're doing. And also this is a little bit of the why behind why we're doing it that way. And like, hey, I can tweak this in this little way and improve it. And it becomes that kind of iterative process that you can see evolve over years, but it's that documented process that allows you to move through things. So like when you post a blog post, you don't forget to put alt tags on images, or you don't forget to, make sure that the images are optimized to be as small as possible and load quickly, or you don't forget to put in some of the SEO based, titles and those sort of things. It becomes that checklist. It becomes the, the pilot taking off. You often get pushback from team members when it's like, hey, use the checklist. It's like, well, the next time you're on an airplane, the pushback is usually, I'm an expert, I know what to do. It's like, okay. The next time you're on an airplane and the pilot is getting ready to take off, they're an expert. Would you rather that they just wing it and back up the airplane and take off? Or would you prefer that they go down through the checklist and make sure that all the
like gas leaking from the wing or something?
Exactly. They got the right amount of gas. They closed all the doors. They turned on the lights. They programmed the radio. They asked for clearance. Like they did all the things. It's like that checklist keeps you alive.
Yeah.
And while in our business, like someone might not die because we screw up
But
an
it
email.
improves your success and the way the company runs and how you help people.
Exactly. Like we're more likely to push software that doesn't break and doesn't cause problems for all of our customers around the world. And when, if it does break, like that involves a whole bunch of emails and customer calls and time out of their day that, it's not good. Like lots of bad things happen.
Right.
So it's the ability to execute uniformly and consistently time after time after time, regardless of who's doing it, from that institutional knowledge that's been built up. So writing documentation has always been key to, kind of our process and how we do things and our training and how we train people. We record a lot of sessions so that our team members are getting consistent, training when they onboard. Everybody on the company, no matter what the position, goes through the same first week training, mostly about how to use our product, whether you're HR, customer service, software engineer, marketing,
right.
You'll learn how to use our product and you learn how our customers use our product and the problems that they're solving with that, because that allows them to go back to be experts at what they're doing. I'm not saying every business should necessarily operate like that, but we found
on the kind of business.
Yeah, we found it's really helpful for our team members to go and then execute on what they're doing most effectively.
Yeah, no, I think businesses do need to better document the different positions in their company, what people do. Now, do you have like a manual, like a major main document that everybody kind of goes to? It's got different sections in it, or does it vary by department and position?
Well, we have documentation that spans the whole company. We have thousands of pages of document. So we use an Atlassian product called Confluence. It's like an internal wiki/blog type product.
So it's all searchable, and
so it's all searchable. You can search it up and write out about the different product features that we have, around how a lot of the engineering stuff works. Like we've been doing this a long time. We have millions of lines of code that actually run what it is that AWeber is. We have dozens of software engineers that are writing new things. Like right now, as we speak, new things are getting released and pushed out to the website, and doing that effectively, requires documentation, because not only do we have to build it, so I need documentation on what to build, I then need documentation on how to operate it, and then I need documentation on how to train our CS team members on how to use it to educate our customers on how to use it, and then we have to have the product marketing documentation on how to educate customers on the new things that we released and how to get the most value from them. So it kind of ranges that whole gamut, and there's that whole process, and that most of that transpires inside of our Confluence installation, where anybody can write docs, and it's encouraged that they're living documents. Even though I might have wrote it, if you come along later and I left something out and there's some additional context that could be helped, could have been added, they're encouraged to go in and add that there, so that the next person that comes along has that additional context and doesn't have to come to me and say, hey, I got a question about number 5. They've updated it, and now somebody else doesn't need to ask that same question again. And it becomes that kind of institutional knowledge that grows.
Sounds like something ripe for blockchain. At some point, you got all these people using it all over the place. You got to make sure it's correct. You don't get a rogue employee that deletes all kind of information, right?
Well, it's all tracked, so you can see if something got deleted.
See who did it.
You can see who deleted it. You can go, you can go back to old versions. So it's often fun to go back and look at like really old versions of things. It's like, oh, that's what that used to look like 10 years ago.
Absolutely. Well, Tom, I can't thank you enough for spending time with me. If anybody's listening, I'm an AWeber fan. Definitely check it out. Give up Constant Contact. Give up MailChimp. AWeber's got much better features. And it's, by the way, more cost effective for the small business owner. It is less expensive than the other programs. But that's not why you should switch. So I appreciate you sharing your story. And, it's important that people hear these things so they can be successful with the stuff that they do. And it's not rocket science. You built a tool that makes it much more accessible to the average person to do this stuff. And they still don't do it. So if you're listening, build an email list, start getting an email list, set up an AWeber account, and start getting in touch with the people that you know. Keep in touch with people you know. That's where your business is. That's where mine is.
Absolutely. The word revolves around the people. So thanks for having me on. It's been a fun conversation, Mitch.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Accidental Entrepreneur. Opening and closing music written and performed by Howie Moskovich and made to order music. For more information about Howie and his music services, please follow the link in our show notes. If you like the podcast, please tell others about us. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcasts, on Amazon Music, Spotify, and most of the other podcast directories. If you like what you hear, please leave us a 5-star review and feel free to share our episodes on social media. If you have any questions or comments, ideas for the show, or you'd even like to appear as a guest, reach out to us by email at info@beinhackerlaw.com. The Accidental Entrepreneur is hosted by Mitch Beinhacker and produced by Beinhacker Law. If you'd like to learn more about our business and legal services, you can find us on social media or visit our website at beinhackerlaw.com. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe to our feed to be notified of all future episodes.